Hello there. Welcome to the practice set on using the discriminant. Please like and subscribe if you find this practice set helpful. Drop a comment or question to engage and check out some of the other videos and playlists on the channel. As always, pause the video to work these problems on your own and then come back to check your work. Okay, so now hopefully you read the directions carefully there, because if you went and solved all of these equations, then you did a lot more work than was necessary. It's not a bad thing to have gotten a lot of practice using the quadratic formula and solving the equations, and you can arrive at the answers that way. It's not going to hurt you, but most of us don't really want to do an hour of work when we could have just done like a half an hour of work, or we don't want to do 30 minutes of work when we could have done it in 15 minutes. So if you need to go back, just rewind it a couple seconds, look at the directions again and say, oh, that's right. But either way, we're just going to go over it. So we are asked to determine how many solutions we have and what kinds of numbers those solutions will be, not necessarily what are the solutions. So our first one, we have A is equal to 2, B is equal to -1, and C is equal to 4. And we're only looking at the discriminant, the B squared minus 4AC. We've got B squared, well, B is -4. Or -1. So we're going to plug that in, -1 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4. 1 squared is -1 squared is -1 times -1, which is +1. And this right here, you could do it this way. 4 times 2 is 8. And 8 times 4 is 32, and 1 minus 32, or if it helps to do like 1 plus -32, okay, is -31. And what you want to note about that is that that is a negative. It's going to give you that negative under the square root, which of course there's no real number that when squared would give us -31. And so your answer would be no real answers or no real solutions. Okay, the number of solutions is none. Okay, and the type is like, well, we don't have any. Now, when you get to algebra 2, so if you're in algebra 2 and you're watching this video as like a quadratic formula, you probably know this, or you will very shortly. In an algebra 2 class, you would answer that question a little bit differently. Okay, it is true that there's no real answers, but typically in algebra 1, we don't know of any numbers that are not real. When you get to algebra 2, you actually do start talking about numbers that aren't real, and so you would answer this question a little bit differently. You do the same workout, you would just use different words to describe how those answers are going to pan out. All right, problem number 2. So we have 6x squared plus 5x plus 1 is equal to 0. A is equal to 6, B is equal to 5, C is equal to 1. And we're just doing that B squared minus 4AC. So we're only looking at that piece under the square root. B is 5. Now here you don't really need to put the 5 in parentheses. Again, I encourage students to do that, because if you're not in the habit of doing it, then there'll be a time when you're supposed to do it and you won't do it, and then everything is sad. All right, 4 times 6 times 1. 5 times 5 is 25, minus 4 times 6 is 24, times 1 is 24. 25 minus 24 is 1, and 1 is a perfect square. So you'd end up in this problem with the square root of 1, which is 1, and that is going to give you 2 real rational answers. So the number of answers, or how many answers will you get? You will get 2. What kind? Well, they will be real and they will be rational. Typically, again, in algebra 1, you don't necessarily always have to have the word real in there, because what else would it be? But you do want to make sure you have rational, meaning whatever these answers are, they will probably dump out in the form of fractions, or they could come out in the form of fractions. So you want to make sure that you at least have 2 rational answers, and it is also true that they will be real. Number 3. Now, number 3, I did juggle this around a little bit, and you might have made a mistake with it. To pick your A, B, and C values, you definitely want to have it in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And you'll notice that it's not in that form. So I kicked the x term or linear term over to the other side. If you go on autopilot and you just read the numbers from left to right, so you like A is 1, B is 3, C is 4, you will not get this right. Well, in this case, you might get the number and type right, but it would be coincidence. Okay, just because there are many numbers that could give you the same types of answers. But if you were looking for the actual answers, you definitely would not get it right. And if you noticed that the linear term was on the other side and you say, well, A is 1, B is 4, and C is 3, in the discriminant part, that will work out, but it would not work out for the entire formula. So let's get it in the right form so we can be sure about what the values are. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. I am going to subtract it from the middle in there because I don't want to rearrange it. 4x minus 4x is 0. So my A value is 1, my B value is -4, and my C value is 3. B squared minus 4AC. Now, in this case, okay, B squared, that's going to be -4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 3. In this case, if you accidentally said the B was 4, well, 4 squared and -4 squared would both give you 16, and you might not notice that you made a mistake. But in the larger formula where you have the part that's like the opposite of B, then you would have an error there because the opposite of 4 and the opposite of -4 are not the same number. 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12, and 16 minus 12 is 4. And we want to notice that that is a perfect square. So if you were to take the square root of that, you would get a 2. And that means, once again, we'll have 2 real rational answers. Number 4. We've got x squared plus 3x plus 1 is equal to 0. A is equal to 1, B is equal to 3, C is equal to 1. And we're just looking at the discriminant. So we'll have 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1. I love ones. They're almost as awesome as zeros. 3 squared is 9. Minus 4 times 1 times 1 is 4. And 9 minus 4 is 5. And that is not a perfect square. So that means if you were doing the quadratic formula out, you would end up with just that square root of 5. Now that's still going to give you 2 answers because you'll have that plus or minus. So you're going to have plus the square root of 5 and minus the square root of 5. They will be real, but they will be irrational because you can't get rid of that square root. So that would be 2 real irrational answers. 2 real irrational answers. And let's take a look at the last one. A is equal to 1, B is equal to 10, and C is equal to 25. Looking at that, B squared minus 4AC, we have B squared, which will be 10 squared, minus 4 times 1 times 25. 10 times 10 is 100. 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 25 is also 100, and 100 minus 100 is 0. So you'd end up with the square root of 0, which is 0. And when you're in your quadratic formula, this will land you at like plus or minus a 0. So you'll get the same answer out in both parts. So it means you'll have 1 real, and it will be rational because the square root will be gone, answer. So 1 real rational answer that does indeed turn up twice in the calculation. File that away in the back of your brain, because when you get to a study of graphs, the fact that that came up twice, so you got the same answer 2 times, once with the plus and once with the minus, will be relevant later on. Okay, so that's it for that practice. Don't forget, give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Subscribe to the channel for more math help. Drop a comment or question below. Let me know what you think of this, or if there's something you feel like I did not explain right, or if I said half the problem numbers wrong or something, like, let me know. And check out some of the other content on the channel. We actually have an entire channel or playlist on Desmos help. We have a playlist on using algebra tiles. We've got a playlist on multiple choice, like how you can reason your way through multiple choice questions, as well as anything and everything you never knew that you always needed to know about lines, and more. So please check that out, and I will see you in the next video.